Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Cloud Underground podcast. I'm Laura, and this is my partner in life and in business, NATO. And, we got another great episode planned.
Another one. It's happening.
So let's start out by talking a little bit about... I guess it's Protestant. Sorry for the background noise.
I guess we might as well just bring him on early.
Yeah, why not? He's got Lucy, his favorite new toy.
Lucy was his latest birthday present.
Augustus turned 5 in April.
Up, Lucy. Up.
See if you can do it. Lucy's kind of large for a little doggy.
Oh,
there we go.
Oh, he brought Lucy. He did.
I love how
Amazing.
he blends into the green screen.
Amazing.
This is Lucy, our the llama unicorn rainbow.
The llama-corn.
Augustus is
He's actually getting retrained into... So he really is an actual service dog, but we have to retrain him. But service dogs do actually play when they're not working.
They do.
And he doesn't know what the concept of a camera is or recording. So, when he's not working, and he's just, having his time, he did his stuff today, he's like, I've been a good dog.
I've been working all day long.
He hangs
out. Now it's playtime.
Just like any other dog. And,
yeah.
If we call him or something like that, he's like, yes, I'm here. And so there he is. And he's very bored.
Yes.
Clearly.
Which is why he brought Lucy in and started playing.
It's why can't I just play with... Okay, should we just let him play with Lucy?
Yeah, we can let him play with Lucy.
All right, well, now
I guess we
know.
should give an explanation.
Now you
It's been
know.
hard having a service dog during a pandemic when we can't really leave the house, but
and
now we're both vaccinated.
Dogs need stress management,
go get
too.
Your vaccines. And if you can, medically able to. And so now we're starting to go out again. We're actually going on vacation soon. So so Nathan, tell us a little bit about what's been happening with the Cloud Underground and the DevSecOps Dojo. What are you guys working on right now?
All right, so Dojo. So something we've been working on now is we have been building a Edge Minecraft server. What's Edge, you ask? Edge happens to be when you have, say, a server that lives in multiple locations at the same time. And we're building Minecraft on it. Why? Because we can.
Because we can.
And we want to.
And it's fun.
And then we can scale Minecraft infinitely that way. And then that way, we can, if we run out of space to have more people in it, then we can just make it bigger and add more to it.
It's also a great test case.
Yeah. And so
start there, and it just proves all the other amazing things that you can do.
Then we needed a way to make sure that it was truly stable, and so basically we needed an assault squad to come and attack our ecosystem full tilt. And so we decided with the dojo to go ahead and kind of make a little role play of making a new business, and said, okay, so dojo, we need all of you to come and do chaos engineering for us. Chaos engineering is basically you're running your environment, and we're running that Minecraft server and playing, making sure that our gaming experience is seamless, no interruptions, no bleeps. Because if we can run Minecraft, it'll most certainly run websites. I don't know, boring business things like WordPress or whatever you want. But great, perfect. But if we can run Minecraft and it not go down during intense attacks, and we're okay, so dojo, we need to start this company. So we decided we're going to start Chaos Labs together in the dojo as a role play to see what it looks like to create a new service, and then get that service to market, in building what's it look like to build an application, a cloud asset that we're then going to sell that cloud asset, and then we're going to deliver the service in the form of a tournament. Where everyone's going to do an actual ethical hacking, a full-on attack against each other while we're playing Minecraft. And Minecraft has to stay running.
Heck yeah.
While everyone's just, attacking each other. And there will be a winner, mind you, too. So not only will, half of our ecosystem just be getting, just full-on attacked, have all this crazy stuff going on, this chaos engineering from Chaos Labs.
Yeah.
They're just going to create some chaos.
So, is the tournament going to be the hide and hunt like we've done in the past?
We're going to play hide and hunt.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to link up here to that video of the previous tournament that we've done. If you're interested in any of this sort of stuff that we've been talking about,
see what it's like to role play building a new business.
Yeah. If it's something you think you might be interested in, you can go to our website and there's a link down below in the description of this video for that to learn more. So if you want to participate in the tournament, we highly encourage you to join ASAP because that's going to be coming up in August, and there's a lot of information to get through to be prepared for that. Not a ton. It's fun. I did it.
Yeah.
I was in the tournament the last time.
And for our role plays, we have 4 primary roles we're going to focus on. Is what if you are like, say, a founder, what's that experience like? And then someone more like, what if you're not the founder, but you're coming in where you're higher up at a company in like the VP level? What's the difference there? So we'll role play that, and then role play like, what's it like to be more of like a directorial level? Because mind you, all these folks at these different levels could be getting paid the same, so it's not about the money.
Yeah.
It's not about the money at all.
What kind of a role are you
What role do you like? Do you like directing? Do you like being more of a VP type of role where you get some of the greater influences of certain things, but you don't have to like shoulder some of the things that, say, like the executives have to shoulder? Or do you prefer being a practitioner, like a specialized practitioner for a very unique thing that the company needs, which could be like, an ethical hacking practitioner, or like a threat research practitioner, or like a cloud architecture practitioner where you just focus on building architectures. Who knows? Maybe you focus on containerization or something.
Yeah.
Or Python or Go.
Sure.
But...
So yeah, you'll be able to explore those various positions in the new dojo role plays that are coming out. So
yeah,
cool stuff.
Just like dogs need work-life balance, so do we. So one of the things we've been doing is figuring out how can you basically, I guess, do more with less, just in general. Because now that like there's like 2 of us and all this other stuff, like I can kind of focus on trying to get like in a more creative space so that I can do things like create creative things.
Yeah.
And then since Laura now has the ability to do things that she wants to do, she can basically run a whole business.
Well, it's funny, you know what? I read this funny article today about like the whole, you probably don't know a whole lot about this, but the whole like girl boss trend, which was a thing for a little while, and it's kind of dying away because all of these companies that had kind of been like, we're female run and like we're empowered or whatever, were kind of just as bad and toxic as male run companies. Not that I'm saying that there shouldn't be women running companies, because obviously I am a female CEO, so like yeah, if anybody's sort of a girl boss, it's sort of me, but I like, it's just a funny like thing that's kind of like a trend. The other thing that they were talking about was like some of these female CEOs were like, I wake up at like 4 a.m. and work like 20 hours every day, like, just so I can get in as much work as possible and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that is like the opposite of me. Like, I sleep in every day because I'm not a morning person. I'm much more of like a night person. Like, I stay up late. I get up when I want to. And I try not to work, more than I have to. Like, I love what I do. Like, I love the Cloud Underground. I love our company. But I also have like creative things that I want to do.
Well, you have a life.
I have a life. I want to sew.
Friends.
I just started training for another half marathon, and so it's like I have all of these like, and even that, like I also have like a personal projects and things that I want to work on. And so like the idea of just like working 100 hours a week is just not what I want.
But the confusing part about all that though It's because, you know,
and we do so much. Like, that's the thing, is like, we do so much.
Well, we do so much because we do so much less.
Yeah.
Because there's this idea. So if you've never heard of a book called Essentialism, read that book called Essentialism, and everything we're talking about will suddenly make sense. But the reality is, like, you have to have something in your tank to do your best work. Something. I don't know what that something is, but you got to put something back in when you, like, are giving so much of yourself all the time. When you're working for other people, you're, like, investing, like, portions of yourself. And so, like, your time, pieces of you, basically, over, like, long periods of your existence. You're just, like, giving that away. And so, like, that's an investment.
Yeah.
And if you want to have more to give, you have to go and fill the tank back up so that you can have more to give back.
Definitely.
And so I think I see a lot of challenges where people will be like, well, oh, if I start a company, like, oh, I'm not doing enough, and oh, I have to work every day and all this stuff. And for me, it's like, I'm disabled, so, like, if I wanted to work every day, my body will rebel against me whether I want it to or not. And so, like, I have to be very strategic about what I do and
absolutely.
get the most out of my time. But, like,
and there's only so many hours in a day, too. Like, I mean, that's something I run up against, too, is, like, I want to do so much, but I almost, like, overwhelm myself with all the things that I want to do. And I really find that I'm so much... Like, and we talked about this in Fridays on the Edge.
Yeah, like, I can't work, Friday. Like, an 80-hour work week. If I want to work an 80-hour work week, my body will, like, retaliate against me and like, basically go to war against me.
Well, and also it's so easy to, like, burn yourself out if you're doing too much. And I like that podcast that you were on that just came out today. You talk about that a little bit. Is like, if you're an entrepreneur and you're running a business, like, burnout can, like, destroy your whole business. So like, doing less really is more if you're running a business. And for me, I'm like, okay, if I can do, like, one task a day, then I'm doing, it's good. I'm making progress. I'm doing things.
What pushes the needle forward?
It's kind of that, like, concept of, like, 1% better every day. It's like, just do one thing a day. Like, keep, like, and don't overload yourself with your super high expectations of yourself.
Now, if you're running, like, a month event, great. That's a lot of work. 1 month. Let's go.
All right.
But that can't last forever.
Yeah. So let's tie this back into the dojo stuff. What were we talking about with the dojo?
Well, with the dojo, I've decided to...
In relation to all of this?
I've decided to go and do role plays on, like, what does it look like to exist in this type of role. And right now we've been doing executive role plays on, like, what's it like to be an executive? How do you do the things that'll help you survive as an executive? Like, how does your pay structure work as an executive? Like, all this stuff. Like, what does it mean to be an executive? And probably one of the number one threats to an executive is burnout. And seriously, though, because it's such a dangerous thing, because you have to keep the needle moving forward still. You can't just stop, but you know that already, obviously. That's the most obvious one. But the one that's complicated is, like, okay, wait a minute. How can I also, like, claim some way to get some energy back? And it's really tricky. It's not a simple thing. I don't even know if I've truly found it, but it's power.
So it seems important. Like you guys are talking a lot about, like, lifestyle and, like, work-life balance. Within the dojo. The other thing that we wanted to talk about a little bit is, if you're not in our Facebook group yet, you should definitely go over there if you have a Facebook account. If you don't, you could even make one, just so you could go and be a part of our private Facebook group. And it's been popping off. We got Fridays on the Edge live every Friday. We do repost those videos here on our YouTube channel, but oftentimes they're edited for content that we don't necessarily want to share as publicly as this. And so go to our Facebook group to get the unedited conversations and to live chat with us while we're live on Fridays in that group. So
and we do in the Facebook group, like, unless we've had some conversation, like, if you want us to, like, give a shout out to, like, an audience yourself or something like that in Fridays on the Edge, then we might, like, say your name, like, publicly or something like that. But that would mean that you've asked us to say your name. But unless you are the one asking us to say your name out publicly, then you get the full privacy where you can ask your questions in the group, and you don't really have... Well, and the only people you have to worry about seeing your question are the people in the group. And so you don't have to worry about like the YouTube people being like, oh, who said that, or who is that person? And we don't play those games. We don't like that. So like we just like to have like our group, and if someone's going to be all crazy or something like that and make it complicated for other members in the group, you're going to get kicked out. It's supposed to be for people who are here to like have a good time together, be supportive of each other,
learn together,
it's
network.
Not for people who want to go to war with each other.
It's fun. And Randall does a lot in that group. And
Randall's the admin.
There's a ton of posts all the time.
All the time. It's solid.
We got a lot going on there. So if you want to learn more about edge computing,
Randall will hook you up if you join the Facebook group, because like, and then we're there too. So it's like, hey.
Yeah, we're there. We're hanging out. So come live chat with us on Fridays in our Facebook group.
Have a conversation with us.
All right. So on to the next regularly scheduled programming here on the podcast. All right. Nathan, I have a very random question for you.
Random.
Okay, we're going to talk about, I always like to talk about things that I feel like are like a little taboo, but like happen to all of us,
Sure.
So here's my question. Because I don't know that we've ever talked about this in
if you rub your feet on the
times
floor, will
that
I
we've
shock
been
you?
together.
Oh.
Well, I know that that's probably likely, so I don't really need to ask about that.
Okay.
What I was going to ask you is, and I'm sorry, I hope this doesn't take you too much by surprise, and I'm not trying to be morbid, but when you die, how do you want to be like buried, or do you want to be cremated? Like, what is your preference?
How do I want to be buried?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I've ever really thought about that.
That's fair. That's fair.
On one end, you could just like, if I'm in a coffin, you could like prop my eyes open so that you can still look into my eyes.
I don't think so. I don't know that's. I don't know how your eyes like hold up after you die.
Maybe that's a dry sense
really
of humor of me to say no, but really, that's a good question. Like I have thoughts about like, what do I want to accomplish by the time I find my later days in the world, but I don't know if I've thought about like, how would I want. I
like,
usually
okay,
just
but
like,
there's
well,
all sorts of
end.
new trends, like you can get your ashes like launched up in a space, well, not in a spaceship, but like with like a weather balloon, like put up into space. I mean, at least you can do that with your pet's ashes, so I'm assuming you can do it with your own.
Just bury me with all of my service dogs, because Augustus, and then there's going to have to be another one, I guess. Cause
okay, but that kind of brings me to a point, is like, if you, so one of our goals is to like buy property at some point and like build a house and like build a business space and like raise service animals like in our old age. Train and raise amazing Klikais. Like,
I love training service animal. Well, because my service animal literally saved my life, which is why he became my service animal.
He's a big part of our lives and our family.
Needed
and
to go to
everybody's dogs are, but like even more. He like literally saved your life.
He was like, "There's something wrong," and I was like, living by myself. But anyways, service dogs. They're actually pretty remarkable animals.
But so if we ultimately like achieve that goal, which I know we will, and we're old and like decrepit, and we have like a little like pet cemetery or whatever, like, wouldn't you want to be buried there on your property? Or do you want to be like in a cemetery where people can come like visit you? These are random questions.
I've never thought about that either.
I feel like I'd want to be like buried on my property, like plant a tree over me.
I feel like I would want other people to choose like what they want to do. Like, I feel like I would want you to choose what to do with me. Unless. But
what if I die first? What would you do with me?
I just probably get so depressed. What would I do with you? I would first I'd want to know what you want.
I would get depressed too. It would be awful.
So I guess then I have to know what you want, because if you want something specific.
Okay, well, so the impetus of all of this conversation is I actually read a really interesting article about how expensive funerals are and kind of exploitative. Like, it's very expensive. They, even if you get cremated, which has gone, like, cremated versus being buried has become a lot more popular, probably because it's cheaper also. Mm-hmm. But even that is like, it's pretty expensive.
Yeah, it's a for better or for worse, regardless of how people think about it.
Yeah, so when a loved one dies, it's almost like burdensome to the other people if you want to commemorate them in a way that, in like a traditional, like sort of American way.
Yeah, especially if you want to be excited about it.
You get a fancy,
have the celebration.
Yeah, like it was an interesting article, and I think that it also talked a little bit about how we as like modern society are like so far removed from the dead, essentially. Like 150 years ago when a loved one died, it was like the family that prepared the body, and you laid them out on a table, and you'd have, you laid them out in like the parlor or whatever, and had, you'd have people come and like view the body and whatever, at least that's like the white people tradition.
Well, even in just like different countries, it's like.
But it was like like the family that was the ones who were taking care of like their loved one after death, and now it's like somebody dies, you call the coroner or you call the police, and they call the coroner, and then they come and take the body away, and you have it go to the funeral home or whatever, and. But there's like, but again, it's like crazy expensive, and like we have this sort of disconnect, and so there's these interesting movements of kind of like composting bodies so that you can like bring it back to Earth or whatever. Right. I don't know. It's just it was an interesting article to me. It doesn't have a lot to do with technology, but it was more like technology of like death and like funerals, I guess, and like.
Yeah, because it's still like we all like at the end of the day, like business is about people, and regardless of like how things go, like for better or for worse, like so we are an infrastructure and an asset based company. We teach how to basically like build and sell your own assets and things like that, and like your greatest asset basically is like a life, more or less. And so like if that's your greatest asset, then like there is that reality that we do have to think about, like, well, what about all of like whatever we want to do to like even just like not even from a financial standpoint, but just from like an emotional standpoint, like people are willing to like people can end up in situations of feeling like disappointed if they can't give the proper like send off to their loved ones over something like financial reasons when it's
or
like
COVID. I mean, like my grandmother died during COVID early on, or she died in February, and then March was like everybody went into lockdown. Yeah, and we wanted to kind of wait for a time after she passed that would be, allow people to come and like be a part of like her celebration of life, because it's basically what we did for my grandfather too when he passed away. And so we postponed it initially, and then COVID hit, and it's like we still haven't had a chance to have a memorial for her, and we're going to now, but it's just like in that it's like it hurts me process. A little bit, because it's like I feel like I haven't quite had the chance to like give her a proper send off and like have that time with my family. And it's a reality, like memorializing her. We haven't really had to have that chance to all get together and do that because of circumstances, and like how tragic, like if you couldn't do that just because you couldn't afford to. Yeah, because it's and there are already enough complications in life. It's and that's why it's like it's a shame when like money becomes the barrier to like connectedness. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's dark. Yeah, it is dark. It's super dark. The last thing that I'll say about this, which that was kind of dark too, was that they were saying how, like embalming chemicals are like super harmful for the environment too. Oh, no. So it's like you're putting somebody but and because of that, a lot of coffins have to be, or a lot of communities require that coffins be like lined in lead, essentially. So you have like, so not only are you just paying for the coffin, but it's like lead lined, and then you're like paying for all these embalming chemicals that are like super harmful for the environment, so you can have a viewing or whatever. And then to each his own, like however it makes you feel, to commemorate your loved one. Do what's right.
Yeah, because it's like, really about
it shouldn't
that
be
connection.
Cost prohibitive. It shouldn't be like like whatever you want to do, you should be able to like afford it.
Yeah, because it's like...
I wonder how other countries, like, fund funerals.
I know, that's a good question. Maybe one of these days we'll have to explore that.
So stupidly in America. Just...
Anyway. Yeah, some of the systems...
Our systems
are a little complicated,
aren't always the greatest.
It really is, like, something, like... When you've basically gone through, like, hard times like this year, like, we're not, like, the only ones who've gone through things. And there's a reality of just, like... we have to solve these things through on top of like all the other things we're trying to solve in our lives, and like
it's a lot.
It's these are complicated times, and it's not even just like that. It's like it's a reminder that like you really should just not take life for granted and take like what you do in your day to day for granted, because like things really aren't promised. And in a lot of ways, it's like up to like us to kind of like rally together and like connect with people and try to see like how can we like find some way to do something. Who knows what?
Definitely. So. Well, actually, I think this is a great transition. Speaking of like enjoy your life or do whatever you can to appreciate it, which transitions into the next. Our ongoing segment about coming back to work in like a post-pandemic world. And, we've talked a lot about how people don't want to go back to the office, how people have moved away from their offices and now have a lot more flexibility because of, the remote work situation. Randall actually posted a really great article in our Facebook group last week about, okay, let me pull it up. It's a New York Times article, and it's called "Welcome to the YOLO Economy," and it's basically about people who like, so not everyone experienced this, but I think it kind of is a little bit about like our situation, because we went through 2020 and it was really hard. It was a crazy time. We kind of went all in. It really changed how our whole perspective, at least for me, and I
because you also see other people's lives. It's really eye-opening.
But it was challenging for a lot of people, and so I think it's really shifted how a lot of people value their work and their life, and it was a little bit of like a...
Because we try to help people get jobs, and then you're like seeing that struggle, and you're like you're like right in front of it, and it's like unless you've done it, unless you've been there, it's but the point of this is that after all of that, now coming into 2021, people are now deciding that they want to really pursue those passions. Like, what is that side career that you've always, or like that side gig that you've been nurturing forever, and you're ready to like just go all in? What people are quitting their jobs to kind of pursue their passions and go all in on whatever it is that like makes them happy, because you only live once. So I thought that was funny. It's a really great article about just it has a lot of good
and of course, like,
too.
not everyone can afford that. Like, there is a certain level. There's also like a segment of this like YOLO economy that's like people who, their jobs continued throughout the pandemic, and so they just sat around and worked the whole time, and they weren't really spending money on much. You weren't going on vacations and all this stuff. So there was a segment of the population that had more disposable income. And who now have all these savings that they're like, all right, great. Like, I'm going to just quit my job and like live off my savings and like try my music career out or whatever. Like, pursue that passion that before COVID, it was kind of like, oh, well, we're just going to do the same traditional stuff that everyone's always done. It's really interesting. I feel like how everything has really changed to like this much more like remote based, how people are like really rebelling about having to go back to the office. People like the flexibility that they have with remote work, because you can work from anywhere. And also like, why not do the thing that you love to do and embrace life, because...
And it really expands your options, like... because once again, it's like, these days, it's like, there's no point in me not being like open about my disability. It's like such a thing these days. But it's like, I don't have to like compromise with my career because I can find ways to like work remotely and still focus on like what's the value that I provide and I tend to be like on the ambitious side in general on things that I do, but still it's like even if I wasn't as ambitious as I am, it's nice knowing that like I can go on the internet and have an opportunity to make something of myself in the same way of someone who like might have to go run down to like every different office or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. So that was a great article. Again, we post links to all of the articles that we talk about in the video description. So go check that out. Thanks, Randy, for posting that in the Facebook group. All right, so for our next story, news article, item, whatever.
News.
Next news item is a follow-up to the Colonial Pipeline story that we talked about, I think in our last episode. Maybe it was 2 episodes ago. I don't remember exactly, but apparently they have... So the story was that a ransomware attack happened on this pipeline, shut down supply to like most of the East Coast of the United States. It was a big problem. And the company Colonial Pipeline actually paid a huge ransom to these hackers, essentially. $4.4 million in Bitcoin. It was 75 Bitcoin. Well, the story came out now that the government has actually seized not all, but 63.7 of the 75 Bitcoin have been seized back. Which all happened from like this new, where was that?
Something I will say while she's looking for that is, think about this as you're watching this. That's a job that someone had to get somehow, is to figure out how to get those funds. That's a cybersecurity job.
Well, yeah, and it was recovered by a new, recently launched ransomware and digital extortion task force from the Department of Justice.
Yeah, so there's cybersecurity.
Cybersecurity.
Jobs
We're finally
to get
taking
your money
this
back
seriously as a country. It's about time.
Doing it.
All right, Nathan. So for our main story today, we're going to be talking a little bit about job trends.
Oh, jobs.
Jobs for 2021 that have kind of come out of the pandemic.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's very different. The world is changing.
It's really interesting to me. I honestly, I feel like all of these jobs, so this is a list that I found of like the 20 most in-demand jobs. There was a LinkedIn thing that was kind of circulating, but I feel like this list was a little more expansive.
Yeah, and it kind of covers more than just like even cloud even. And really think about not just cloud, but how cloud impact, like a lot of these jobs are dependent on cloud, like almost all of them are.
Ooh, maybe our challenge is to see how each of these jobs is influenced or
it'll be a challenge for me to see how concise I can be.
Yeah, we'll see.
I naturally rant, so we can practice. We can see.
Okay.
All right.
So the first job on this list, and I don't know if we'll make it through all of them. Maybe we can kind of some of them kind of lumped together. So I can let you know the ones that kind of lumped together.
We'll do
but this first one I think is interesting. It's the frontline e-commerce worker. So that is like delivery drivers, package handlers, personal shoppers. So, the people, so you're at home, you put in your order for like Instacart or whatever, you're like, Safeway, deliver my groceries to me, or Kroger, whatever, your grocery store is. And somebody goes around the store, like somebody gets that order and they go around the store and they collect it all and then they put it in their car and they bring it to you. Like, it's just an individual working for a company like Instacart who does all of that. And
then someone has to make a cloud app to make it so that the user can just put in their order, and that's a job to go with it. So it's there you go. Both are in demand.
Both are in demand.
There you go.
But there you go. So that's one of the most in demand jobs right now.
Yeah.
Is like delivery drivers, like Grubhub people,
or like being a cloud engineer for one of those apps. either one, you're going to be in a good place.
Yes.
You will find work.
The other thing that was surprising to me is the salary range that is listed on this for just, a delivery driver kind of role is $42,000 to $56,000. I feel like that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
I feel like that's pretty good.
Yeah, especially like anyone at any age could do it. Like you could be.
And it says that 75% of these people have a bachelor's degree or higher. I'm not really sure what to say about that, and I don't want to make any comments. Okay.
Comments.
I feel like...
Should we go to the next one?
Should I make a comment?
I don't know.
I can edit it out if it's inappropriate.
Just make a comment.
I feel like that speaks a lot to what a bachelor's degree is worth these days.
Yeah.
That you can then become an Uber Eats delivery driver.
Well, I think there's a big conversation in that because that's a good point. And like, I guess if I were to not go too far into that conversation, it's like I think in a lot of ways it shows more that it's the information and the knowledge that's valuable, not necessarily like the degree. Because
okay, but what is the information?
So like if you go and you get a bachelor's degree.
Yeah. A
bachelor's degree in what? And then do you know how to apply whatever that what is? Alternatively,
but that's the point. Is like you don't need a bachelor's degree.
That's my point. Is it's if you learn it and you know how to apply yourself, that's a skill too. But
well, I if you have a degree, it shows that you can like stick something out for at least 4 years.
But yeah, well, I mean, I don't
maybe
quite even mean it in that way. I mean,
like
apply what you learned after the degree. I feel like your capability to apply what you've learned matters more than whether or not you have a degree.
Well, but that's my point. Is like,
don't have a degree.
What if I got a degree in philosophy? How is that applicable to delivery driving?
Right. It just kind of comes to show that like, it doesn't matter. All that matters is can you do the job? And if the answer is yes, can you do it? Every day for however long you're going to work here. If the answer is yes.
When I graduated from college,
great.
I have an English degree. I was the only person that I knew who was supporting myself in a capacity where I was actually writing.
I couldn't get a job
from my degree. Like I was, and you couldn't get a job in your for the life of industry.
It took me years to figure it out.
Yeah. You have a communications degree, and you're...
And I tried so hard to get a job.
A cloud engineer.
Yes.
So...
I couldn't get I tried so hard to get... Like, I could
get
the job...
Nothing wrong with any of those things. Like, I'm not... I'm like... And that's the thing
studied.
Is, like... I'm like, wow, $42,000, I should have just done that when I graduated from college instead of like busting my ass as like a small town journalist making $22,000 a year.
I should have just kept running my DJ business and just never stopped. It would be so big right now. I'd just be like, just imagine if I'd have just never stopped DJing. Like I was charging. Get this, I would charge $200 an hour to DJ. The first hour is $200, and then the second hour, every hour after the first hour is $150 an hour. This was DJing, and then people are like, "Wait a minute, did you just bill me $150 an hour for cybersecurity?" I'm like, people paid $200 for DJing. You gonna pay that $150, and you gonna pay it.
Well, that's the irony too of it. Is like I was the only one working in my field, but I was probably making way less than all of my friends who had like good management jobs in restaurants.
Yeah. People actually pay me about $300 an hour at cybersecurity, right. So I guess it's still double. But it's like some people would be like, there were times when I would like lower the price to $150 and people would pay me more to DJ than some of the... I'm like,
yeah,
no, I cannot work with someone in this industry who can't even... Anyways, let's get out of that topic. That's cheap.
All right, so we've only made it down one item of this list. Okay, so the next thing is loan and mortgage experts, which totally makes sense because I feel like for whatever reason the housing market is like popping off right now. And, well, actually, I know the reason, because interest rates are incredibly low, and I think I actually read today that they dropped them even further. So you're basically paying, like, 0 interest. You might as well go buy a house, if that's your thing. So, yeah, you need loan and mortgage experts. That makes sense. The other, one of the other industries in this list that is pretty heavily, like, hit upon is healthcare. So, this next one is an in-home caregiver. There's a couple others. Let me just find a nurse practitioner. That might have been it. But, yeah, it was, like, healthcare things, like, that definitely makes sense to me, especially in a time of
mental
pandemic.
Health, healthcare, yeah.
Yeah, in-home health. I think people are probably a little more, like, leery of maybe sending loved ones to healthcare facilities. Probably. With COVID. Like, they'd rather have somebody come into the home.
Yeah, people probably more... That makes sense. More willing
especially because elderly people are, like, so particularly vulnerable to COVID, so... The other one was workplace diversity expert. I feel like every workplace should have some sort of diversity expert.
I think so.
I think it's really important in this day and age.
Well, I had an interview with Douglas Brush who does that today.
Awesome.
and
go check out that podcast.
Honestly, I think it's refreshing in a way, and I guess I'll say this from the standpoint of, like, because you get people saying different things, like that. They don't want to, like, so, like, there's a real disparity in people, like, accepting a look. If I were to introduce myself without a picture of my face, I get a different response from if I introduce myself with my face. Mm-hmm. And then if I have then someone do a mock, like, because I've tested this, where someone will do, like, an interview with, like I'll introduce, and then someone else will do the same thing. The results are very different, and it's just it's a complicated thing. It's not straightforward, and it's not to say that everybody's, like, this or that, but it's complicated.
It goes back a little bit to, well, it makes me think again of that Girl Boss article that I was reading, because that was another thing that was, like, a lot of these companies were kind of accused of, is, like, hiring diverse people, but then, like, not giving them any say, or, like, not listening to them. And I feel like that's something that you've
diversity quotas
experienced in the past. They're
in your
career.
Let us just put you in this corner.
Yeah.
Have fun. Now we have you in our numbers list,
like,
and then we
definitely
give
not
this
something
to our
you
investors.
experience with your current company, or, you know, with us. Obviously, like, you're a co-founder of this company.
That's why I like working,
to us.
like, with our own thing, and then also, like, Blue Mirror treats me like a person, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, they're a great company, and they do, and they really embrace, like, all kinds of diversity, and so I absolutely
seriously,
respect
it's very
that.
nice. Like, when you if you work with people who just, like, treat you like a professional, that goes so far. Just being. Like, but
it's ironic that, like, a lot of these companies are like, oh, we have to fill a diversity quota, but then they treat those people that they hire as like less
like the
less
quota
than
people.
The that they're not the quota people.
The quota people. Well, they're just here because
instead of respecting their professional credentials and actually listening to what they say.
Yeah, it's like I want to matter more than
so when we took photos of the office, we had some, like, brown people in the background, you know, like, it's really,
it's like I want to matter more than a
yeah, that's not, you're not respecting those,
diversity. Check.
Yeah, not good. So yes, every workplace should have a diversity expert to help with things like, you know, if people take you less seriously because you're not white, or you're not a straight white man, you can go and have a voice with somebody and have, you know.
And people could say it's the long hair or the beard or the lack of the collared shirt, but I've tried all flavors, and trust me, like, I nowadays I don't even care. I'm just like, I'm good. You take me, you get what you get. Oh. I'm here to provide some knowledge, and if you want that, I got you. If you want something other than knowledge, if you want a flashy suit, someone got that. I like wearing suits, actually, but you got to ask for it still. Let me know.
We're still coming out of the pandemic.
Give me a reason to wear a suit.
We're still used to wearing our comfortable clothes.
Give me a nice table to wear a suit at if you're going to make me wear a suit.
That's right. All right, so next on this list of jobs that are becoming, or that are, you know, being most hired for, there's a whole sector of, like, digital and video marketers and social media marketers, essentially, which also makes a lot of sense. I feel like this is something that's been kind of becoming more and more popular. And then with COVID, everybody's at home. If you had a brick and mortar business, you need to have some sort of online presence because people can't come to your business. Now they can. Like, now it's getting better, but like when it first started,
preferences are still a thing.
Yeah, it's like, so it makes a lot of sense to me that that's a big, emerging, well, not emerging, like, but that's something that people are hiring for a lot right now.
Yeah, nowadays, like, businesses, if they don't have an online presence, like, they can afford to get someone to give them an online presence because they're losing that much money by not having it. And so they're willing to, like, go and hire people at this time to be like, look, get us online. So people who have those skills, and if you know how to, like, digital market, that means getting customers that buy.
And I also think this goes back a little bit to the, like, YOLO economy that we were talking about before. Like, I feel like there are a lot more people now who are kind of pursuing that passion, but they don't know SEO, or they don't know how to, like, edit a video. So they want to be on YouTube, or they want their website to, like, show up in search results. So they're outsourcing some of those skills to other people who can, like, who will edit the video for them, who can manage their Facebook page, who can manage their YouTube presence, who can, post every day on Instagram, all of those things. That's something that I aspire to outsource very soon as well. So.
Yeah, but
so
things take time.
I can totally understand why these are, like, the things that are if you have those skills, and like, it's super valuable, and embrace your valuable skills.
One thing I want to say about Laura too is, like, it's because it's kind of one of those things of, like, I would like others who've been following me for a while to realize, like, Laura's been involved, like, for long before she ever, like, showed up on camera and things like that, and, like, in terms of, like, things that helped
behind the scenes
me get, like,
before Cloud
making my face exist in front of people. The only way that happened was actually very much so thanks to Laura.
I got to be, like, the alpha tester.
And I had made a video called "See the Face Behind the Camera." Laura's been behind the scenes for, like, over a year before anyone even knows. So, like, there's a lot of, because I know it's, like, in some cases it can seem like Laura just, like, popped up and all of a sudden is just, like, suddenly just, like, on it. Laura's been hustling for a long. Laura doesn't even need to be, like, in the spotlight. Like, she just is, like, the reason why half of the things that we do work. And so, like, there's a reason why she's CEO. It's because she's, like, been a CEO. She's been doing the CEO work.
Well, that's my journey. My journey is to be, like, in the background helping lift people up and, like, get them where they need to go.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I've always done. I've always been the one, like, in the background, like, yeah, you can do it.
Yeah,
let me make you look good and sound better.
Let's do it. Let's make this work.
So I'm used to that. Yeah. It's weird for me to be, like, in front of people.
Yeah.
Because I'm used to, like, getting zero praise and recognition and just, like, being the person behind the scenes.
And I'm used to being in front of people and not knowing why everybody is booing at me. So I'm just like, well, I'll just go get booed at again next week, and then I'll just get back out there.
See, and I hope you not get booed at, right? Is that the point? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because, like, I talk to you and you're like, oh, think about these things. And I'm like, oh, I never thought about those things. And I'll get back out there. Well, it's always good to have,
like, that's my other skill is editing. And, I'm a copy editor. Yeah. I also have done a lot of audio and video editing in my day. And I will very much say that I think it's important to have outside sets of eyes.
Oh, absolutely. It's like everything.
Get, like, tunnel vision in your own little space, and
oh, it's so easy.
You write something and you think it's perfect, but then you give it to somebody else and they find, like, a ton of little errors that you just didn't see because
or things that
you're
didn't
too
make
close
any
to
sense.
it, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
it's your baby. Let somebody else.
Laura's got those, like, digital marketing skills. Like, got them. 10 out of 10.
Well, thank you.
I don't have those skills.
So the next in-demand skills on this list of the most in-demand jobs for 2021 is we've got some renewable energy kind of blue collar skills, wind turbine technician and solar installer, which I thought that was interesting, you know. Renewable energy, it's the future. So if you can...
It's renewable.
Yeah. If you can work on those technologies, you got good skills. All right, so let's relate that back to cloud.
Well, we have members in our own community who have run solar-powered data centers for months now, and they still haven't gone down. So the reality is, in this day and age, you can run a whole data center pure solar, straight up, and it'll just run. And then you got to figure out how to power it and all. So, but then you can add like 5G and all that to it.
Yeah.
And then you can power all that solar. So then basically the primary power that is getting used is on a satellite, which happens to be solar too. And you just have, I mean, we're going to have satellite waste no matter what, so to have cellular in these day and age. But still, like, just think about, like, the impact of being able to just have something run 24/7 and not use anything but the sun.
Okay, so that makes me, I feel like I should tell my Starlink story from this past weekend.
Oh, Starlink.
Should I tell the Starlink story?
Okay.
Starlink. So, over Memorial Day weekend, I met a couple of my girlfriends in Utah. We went to the middle of nowhere. There was like 3 things to do, and we did all 3 of those things. The 3 things were like float down the river, go for a hike, and sit in some natural hot springs. So the first night we're there, we're sitting in the natural hot springs, and we're in Utah, so of course I'm like talking about, you know, UFOs and Skinwalker Ranch and all of those things, because you know that's my it all intrigues me very much. And as I'm talking about these things with my friends, one of my friends is like, "Oh my gosh, do you see that?" And it's like the sun had just set, but it's pretty dark. Like there's still a little bit of like twilight happening, but it was pretty dark. And there's a little strip of clouds, and then all of a sudden, out of the clouds comes this line of like, I don't know, like shooting stars, or just like, you know, stars moving or satellites moving. But I've seen a lot of satellites in my day, and usually it's like one and it moves slowly. Like this was like 50 like shooting up out of this cloud into the middle of the dark night sky and then disappearing. And my friend was like freaking out. She's like, "All right, we gotta go. Like, we just saw some UFOs or something. Like, I gotta go interact with other human beings to make sure I'm like still on this planet," sort of thing. So we're camping at a campground, and we go out, and my friend calls her husband, like freaking out, and he texts her this link to like, oh, it's just Starlink satellites. And we'd actually been talking about that earlier, but we thought it was like 3 or like 4. No. It's like a line of like 50 shooting stars like going across the sky. And of course, it's like they were reflecting the light for a moment, and then once they reached a certain point, like they weren't reflecting the light anymore because the sun was going down. And so it's like that's why they all just kind of like disappeared into the sky. But it was just like, it was so crazy. It was really interesting.
That would be neat.
So Starlink.
I missed out, but it's okay. People
are kind of angry though. Like people who like to like stargaze are a little upset about it because they're saying they're gonna launch like thousands of satellites that'll be like just circling the globe like constantly.
Never be able to just see the stars by themselves again.
No, you'll just see
Starlink.
Starlink
around the globe,
racing around the sky. It was pretty intense.
Oh my. It's gonna be our future. Is just
I guess
stars
I'll also put a link
all over the place.
To like an image that was similar to what we saw. Because Starlink. If you think it's a UFO,
maybe it is.
It's probably just Starlink. Maybe it is, but maybe it's not.
Maybe it's Elon and his fighter star spaceship. It's just like going in for this one.
The other billionaire space race news is that Jeff Bezos is going to space.
Oh, Bezos is going. He's starting space
He stepped
cruises.
down
but did
from
we ever
Amazon.
finish the job thing? Because we never got into cloud jobs.
Well, we're on a tangent.
Okay.
So we're just going to keep riding that because I feel like we're almost to the end of the job thing.
Okay, Bezos,
the billionaire space race.
Yeah.
So he stepped down as CEO of Amazon, right?
Oh, of course, right.
But I think partly so he can like go to space and like.
He's like, I need to be a space person.
So
now.
the inaugural
I don't have time for Amazon anymore.
Of his company, what is it, like Blue Horizon or something?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
I just know he's
that
ready.
might be wrong. If it is, I'll edit.
He's like, I'm taking all of my billions and I'm going to space too. It's like
he's
now
like,
we have the billionaire space
I just
race.
want to start a space company so I can go to
Who's
space.
next? What billionaire is going to go to space next? It's the billionaire.
Has Musk been in space? No, he's just launched rockets.
No, it's more about the rockets than them going to space.
Yeah, for Bezos, I feel like he actually wants to be in space.
Actually, yeah, he might actually try to like live in one of his space stations.
Because he's the one who wants to have like like space tourism thing, right? Like he's like the.
It's like, look at the space
like
station.
That HBO
I'm
show.
here. I'm ready. I'm just chilling. I feel like that's all Bezos ever wanted. He's like, I just want to like go and be in space.
Have a space station.
So I'm just gonna like make a bunch of money
and like gaze at
and
the
then
earth.
that's all I ever. I just watched Star Wars.
Of us while he's
and was like, what am I doing with my life?
Sitting in his space station.
He watched, and then he watched Star Trek, and then it just set in deeper because Star Wars like has all these gaps, but Star Trek just never ends. And so like he just probably watched that and he's like, that's me, and I have to go to space, and I can't not. And maybe that's the only reason Amazon existed. Conspiracy theory. The only reason Amazon ever existed is because Bezos knew that he had to go to space and didn't know how, but he didn't actually care about Amazon. He just cared about going to space because he's just like, this is what I have to do and this is how it's going to be, and this is where I'm going. And nobody will understand until I'm there. And so he didn't even tell people because he's like, people are going to think I'm crazy, so I'm not going to say anything, and then I'm just going to go. And now the time came, and he's like, I'm just going to go.
Next month. He'll be in space.
He's going to be living there for the rest of his Bezos life.
Will he come back?
I don't think so.
We'll find out.
If he comes back, he's going to come back with like a grappler ship with like arms that like
he's building, I'm sure he's just like building a luxury space yacht so that he can just like circle the earth. Forever. And
he's going to have cameras that let him watch whatever he wants
and
from
just
afar.
Like laugh at the rest
he's
of us.
He's going to be like, look at those. And then he's gonna like become half cyborg.
They all look like tiny ants
so he's not even
gonna
need oxygen anymore. And then he's gonna be like, you know what? I'm gonna be like he'll be like the world's first like full human android.
Yes, you heard it here first, folks.
And he's gonna just like give his entire like mind space to AI, and he's just gonna be like, I'm gonna, and whether or not it's good or bad for him, I couldn't tell you, but that's. And then we'll see what happens.
All right, that's enough about that.
Okay. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
We'll see if that segment makes it into the podcast.
That's right.
Coming up next, we get into the more technical side of things. We got statistician and mathematicians. You might need a master's degree, but you're going to make a lot of money. Artificial intelligence practitioner and blockchain developer.
Oh.
Tell us a little bit about what it would mean to be an artificial intelligence practitioner.
Well, if you want to be an artificial intelligence practitioner, it means that it's artificial and it's intelligent. No, I guess so. Really, like when we're talking about the context of like AI, like everyone. So exciting. And while it's not that it's not exciting, AI is quite exciting and all those things. But it's important to realize that it's still in an infancy, and there's still a lot of like trying to test the limits of what AI is. And so while regardless of where AI goes at this time, like being an AI practitioner, starts with learning like just how to use it. And so we have like forms of AI that live on the internet and machine learning and stuff like that. You even see it in like SEO. You even see it if you're like running ads and things like that. But let's say that you want to be like a practitioner. That means that like maybe you're the person who knows how to make the Facebook pixel and maintain the Facebook pixel, not implement it on a website, but like build it from scratch and then deliver it and distribute it and then like maintain that from the backside. So like the practitioners are those who sit and spend time trying to understand like how to make the AI like and then try to raise it into something and see how far we can get with it. So maybe one day we'll see, but yeah, that's the job. Do you want to go down that rabbit hole? then AI practitioner could be for you.
Totally. The next one is blockchain developer. Once again, we're getting into the more kind of technical careers.
Blockchain is the controversial one.
So that's like working in cryptocurrency and
that's
like NFTs.
That's the number one thing that most people think of, because it's like the stuff that anytime something hits like money men, which is like the financial market, then it gets out there like really fast, because they're like, what, money thing? Money things, everyone, and then they like spread it as to where like technical people. Like blockchain's also something that you see in like medical security and things like that, and like just like general security as well. So like maintaining like security ledgers is not something that's like exclusive to like blockchain with like cryptocurrency or NFTs. But the thing about blockchain is it's kind of like it's more flexible than I think people realize. And so really just cryptocurrency and NFTs are probably the most popular, I guess, versions of like blockchain versus like trying to maintain like medical records or do like analysis on DNA. You know, if you're doing like DNA analysis, you might be doing blockchain, but it's a very different conversation from what I think most people are like thinking when they're like, I'm going to go into blockchain. Probably not thinking about doing like DNA analysis.
Yeah.
But there are all kinds of use cases for it.
Interesting. That's pretty interesting. All right, next up we got cybersecurity project manager.
Project managers.
Cybersecurity project manager? What does that mean?
So if you're a cybersecurity project manager, so first and foremost, cybersecurity is the industry around all of the chaos that's making the internet unstable and unsecure. So if you're a project manager, of course, like there's so many unique projects that really like cybersecurity is just like a bunch of haystacks. The project managers are like, let's focus on the needles. So really you have project managers to help like focus the project and be like, okay, is what we're doing conducive to the project and why? And understanding that, and maybe you have to understand some engineering in some cases. In a really small company, maybe you have to do some engineering. In a larger company, you're probably more thinking about like, okay, like what is going to ensure the success of this like project. So a project could be anything from like, we just had an incident, we need to respond to it. Boom, incidents response. That's an entire industry. You can make a career out of just that. Or like, forensics, like, oh, we have a forensics case where we have to collect a very specific set of evidence. That's one project. And then you go down the rabbit hole. There's like SIM, and there's other things and other things and things. There's a lot of projects.
Lots of things. And there's definitely a cybersecurity like skills shortage that people are always talking about. So
it's a hot topic in my community.
Good industry to get into.
The shortage, I would say, is more not in the. It's more in the, I would say, in the leadership arenas, where I would say it's more the shortage is in the more senior and practitioner level. I made the mistake last year of thinking that the shortage was because of the entry-level market. I'm like, oh, we just got to make sure that the entry level can perform. Right. And then when I found out it was easier to help people skip the entry level entirely and go up to like more leadership level roles.
But I feel like that's a problem within the industry itself, in that they're putting these super unrealistic expectations.
And that's a leadership problem, yeah.
Entry level positions. So people look at like the job descriptions and they're like, oh, I don't have the experience that they want. And so I feel like a lot of those jobs probably just go unfilled because
gatekeepers.
And that's why there's a skills shortage.
Yeah,
it's because they have like these ridiculous standards for entry level positions.
And there's a lot of fear.
I'm sure that contributes at least.
Yeah, because people are like, are you going to hack my company? So people get a little overly concerned about some of that. It's like no, they're just trying to get a job. They're just trying to help someone. But it's complicated.
All right, so next on the list we have UX designer. Ooh, I like this one. I feel like
that's
I'm all about like the user experience.
That's
interfaces, user interfaces. I want things to look pretty and like feel nice and
go to cloudunderground.dev. Shameless plug.
Navigable.
Beautiful website. Beautiful to navigate.
Built by yours truly. Yeah, so I totally understand. I feel like everyone's trying to start a business, and like if you're, again, it's like if you're trying to get your side hustle or whatever into your main hustle, maybe you don't have the skills to build a Shopify store. I don't know if UX, that's probably not a great example, but
it's one of many. Yeah, it's still, because line of scent matters. That you don't. So there's codeless development. So this is a controversial thing that I just want to like nip, because there's like all this controversy around this. Is like, the outcome is all that matters. It doesn't matter how much code you did. It doesn't matter how much code you didn't do.
Right.
But when we're talking about like
if you're creating a Shopify template or a WordPress template or something like that, like that's a UX.
That's still design. That's know, and whether or not you have the code, you still have to have the eye, and some people don't have both. It's just true.
Totally. You have to. And there, I every day I come across websites and I'm like, this is terrible, and I'm never coming back here.
Yeah, good
because
experience.
The experience is terrible. I don't know.
Yeah, the experience matters, and it's like you don't even have to have the most advanced experience. It just has to have like proper expectations. Mm-hmm. Like, what do people like? I hope we make it clear enough on our stuff. Is like, if you buy from us, even before you buy, we list that it could take 2 weeks or so or longer, depending on what you ordered or where you live, to get your items. And we've had situations where, like, especially during the pandemic, where deliveries were delayed way beyond our 60-day like guarantees and things, and these expectations matter.
Yeah. The next thing on the list is Java developer, which I feel like goes a little bit with like UX, sort of. I feel like a lot of Java's designing things.
That's a lot more complicated, because Java could be like someone building like massive database infrastructure that's going to like
true, but
chew on.
You want to like make it usable for the user. So.
Well, Java's a language that's just versatile. It's Java would be closer to like a C# or.
Well, I know that. I know it's a language. I'm just saying that like.
Yeah.
I mean, you can. You're right.
How navigatable
you can design a really ugly piece of Java code that nobody cares about except for you.
That's true. Yeah.
But if you're trying to sell it to somebody,
you have to be able to make things look
implement
nice.
It for like a company that other people are going to be using, there is a fair amount of like UX that will go into that, right?
Well, like I'll say, like for example, like most of the companies I've done development with will have like separate Java developers from the UX developers.
Well, yeah, of course.
So, but a Java developer has to be able to work with a UX developer seamlessly and put something together as a team, which does mean that you have to also have like team like you have to be able to work with people.
Well, in a job, I think you have to be able to work with people.
Yeah.
If you want to be successful, even if you're starting your own side hustle where your whole thing is like you're your own boss, like you're gonna have clients, people giving you money for your service, so you still have to be able to work with people. So all right, so that's really the technical aspects. There's a few other things that we'll breeze through on this list, which I think are interesting. One is forest fire inspector and prevention specialist, which makes total sense to me. We're living in a climate change riddled world. Extreme weather events happen all the time. One of those is wildfires. I feel like the state of California is constantly burning down, so people who can mitigate that are probably highly in demand these days. Another one is genetic counseling, which as somebody with a genetic disorder, I think like this is huge. Better to know and prevent it, and I think genetic, if you're going to get genetic testing for a genetic disorder, you should definitely have counseling, somebody on your side who can help you get through that, because learning that you have a genetic disorder is like can be really heart-wrenching and terrifying, and so having somebody in your corner to kind of talk you through that's what a genetic counselor does. So I think that's awesome. Another one that I thought was funny that's on this list is a bicycle repair specialist. I lived in the Netherlands for a year, and that's the thing I miss the most, is like being able to bike everywhere. But living in this country, I think it's kind of funny that that's like one of the things that is high up on this list.
Gotta keep those bikes working.
I mean, yeah, but it's just funny that's, I don't know. Are people driving less now?
Maybe so. That could be. I feel like
once we move, that's like I can't wait to buy a bike.
For people to just like bike to exercise has increased.
I think it's more that people are like, all right.
So they're like, okay, I gotta find some active thing.
When you're stuck in your house and you can't do anything, we might as well hop on your bike and go for like a road ride or something. So I guess that makes sense.
On a bike venture.
And the last thing is mental health specialist. We need more of those people. 2020, I think, was hard on everyone in its own unique ways.
Something that most people might not realize or know or understand.
And mental health is important.
Change actually causes PTSD in the brain. Even if it's positive change, it can cause PTSD in the brain. And so it's still important to understand your own mental health, because just because you experience PTSD from a good change doesn't mean that you shouldn't learn how to navigate it.
Right.
It's more about learning how to navigate whatever's going on, because you might have had something that, like a new job that worked out really well, and you can you can have burnout from success or failure or working too hard, and with the pandemic that was a dramatic change.
Dramatic change, not terrible change.
But. Traumatic change too, like terrible change, like rapid change, but any form of like quick change. So the pandemic was like a massive amount of change for a massive portion of the world. There are very, very few people who didn't have some dramatic form of change rapidly.
Yeah, absolutely. And mental health is very important, and I think therapy can be incredibly helpful. Talking to a counselor can change your life, and so kudos to all the mental health specialists out there, and if you want to become one, it's a blossoming industry that is expanding. Not blossoming. Right. I mean, it's already
opportunities.
It's not blossoming. It's already like fully like bloomed, but there's more demand than ever in that industry. So,
helping everyone. It's good.
I think that's it. I think that's everything we wanted to talk about.
I think so.
If you have any questions, comments, we'd love to hear from you. Leave them leave comments in the video, and we will respond. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. If you don't, you can still give us a thumbs down. Just engage. We love that. We don't care. Yeah. And subscribe if you want to see more videos from the Cloud Underground. We have podcasts that come out on a weekly, bi-weekly basis. And we have Fridays on the Edge videos that we post rebroadcasts, recordings. They're recordings of the live session on this channel. So subscribe to get everything from Cloud Underground.
Yeah.
All right.
We did it. Good stuff. We did it.
Another episode.
Done.